Intermittent fasting, or intermittent eating, as I prefer to call it, is the most cutting-edge life extension strategy on earth. And yet, despite it being the ultimate weight loss program and health insurance policy in existence, there's no counting calories, and, unlike other healthy habits, it doesn't take, but frees up much of our time and money. Fit boys and girls may turn heads, but fit men and women break necks. So thank you for giving the best of you an opportunity to shine, as this translates to having more choices and greater freedom. Your first wealth is health, and when it comes to credibility, your body is your calling card. It is the ultimate symbol of status and prestige. It takes effort to acquire and to maintain it. You cannot fake or buy it. Thus, a fit body that is built to perform subconsciously conveys the qualities we value in our society. A healthy physique is a subtle way of publicizing that you define you. That you are not someone who is in denial or negligent, but conscious of the things that really matter, self-aware and in control. That you have the self-discipline to get things done, and are the type of person that people want to do business with. So it's no wonder that ripped Hollywood actors prefer to fast, and that Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, referred to it as a medical must. Whilst fasting up to 72 hours, our metabolism does not slow down, but can even grow, especially whilst doing resistance training. This makes sense since hunter-gatherers were most active whilst in the fasted state, in large part due to HGH, which peaks during puberty and decreases as we age. Fasting leads to a major increase in HGH levels, switching our metabolism from sugar-burning to fat-burning mode, whilst maintaining muscle mass and bone density. HGH decreases the risk for cardiovascular disease, depression, anxiety, poor memory, weight, and hair loss. It improves vision and mental clarity, whilst playing a vital role in cell regeneration, the strengthening of our immune system, and in the maintenance of healthy tissue and various vital organs. Furthermore, rather than being shackled to eating 3 times a day, snacking in between, struggling to concentrate and in need of a nap after eating, fasting provides us with greater focus and alertness, thanks to BDNF and orexin A, both of which are greatly increased as a result of fasting. After all, our species wouldn't have survived if we had become dumber, weaker or slower the day food was suddenly not available. Thus fasting boosts our memory, wit, creativity, humor, and the ability to use information, manipulate ideas, and handle situations outside our comfort zone. This is why eating little and often is arguably the worst thing we can do, and why breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. So, don't go breaking your fast when your body needs it like it needs sleep. When we first wake up in the morning, our insulin levels are low, and we are just starting to enter the fasted state. Thus, the worst thing we could do is to eat food, spiking insulin and glucose, immediately shutting off fat burning, and driving as many calories as possible into fat stores. As you may recall from the previous video, the law of least effort refers to the fact that we are not weak or lazy. We are simply wired up to behave just like water, in that we naturally take the course of least resistance. However, this means that we are vulnerable to drugs that hijack the existing pleasure circuits in our brain. When particular chemicals hit certain areas, they cause feelings of euphoria and excitement. And the same drug-like effect happens when we eat highly concentrated, processed foods. This is because rich foods are nature's way of telling us that they align with the law of least effort, by providing the highest amount of dietary rewards for the least amount of work. This helped our ancestors to conserve energy, whilst identifying the most calorie-dense and ripe foods around. However, this solution has now become the problem. Junk foods continue to excite our senses, even though they are now clogging up our arteries and making us fat, sick, and depressed. In other words, we are all wired for self-sabotage until we get a firm handle on how these primitive drives betray us, and learn how to transcend their grip through the recalibration of our neural networks. The irony is that, due to adaptation, junk food, drugs, and alcohol soon only work to suppress the fleeting withdrawal symptoms caused by their abstinence. And this is the pleasure trap, which depends on our pleasure thermometer that runs from unpleasant through neutral to pleasant. When we experience something we enjoy, our pleasure thermometer goes up. And when we experience something we don't like, it goes down. But then we adapt to almost anything we experience with any regularity. Oh, the irony. We respond less and less to environmental events as they persist. Particularly when we experience an intense stimulus, such as drugs or junk food. Our insulin receptors self-regulate, like a thermostat. They desensitize, in order to defend against the high-intensity stimulus in the future. Consequently, our pleasure thermometer soon returns to neutral. Put another way, adaptation to salt, sugar, and fat is inevitable. And this keeps us feeling like cocaine addicts, chasing the high, feeling no better than we used to before we became addicted, and ending up right back where we started, in terms of our subjective experience. So let's rejoice, for we know better than to persist on eating junk food, just to stay within our normal, yes, normal range of pleasure. Fasting reactivates our insulin receptors. And even though nothing tastes as good as healthy feels, thanks to abstinence, our taste buds become resensitized to stimuli. And we get to love, and I mean, really love food and drugs, like never before. Oh, the irony. Thus, how wonderful is it to know that all we need is a long enough lever and a fulcrum on which to place it, and we can move the world? That lever is repetition. And the fulcrum is the need to stay consistent with the deepest beliefs we have about ourselves. And thus, every time we listen to these words, the lever grows, and that is a victory. Because by gradually recalibrating our beliefs, we reinforce the habit of being a fat burner, rather than just a sugar burner. This is how we can win the greatest victory in history. Victory over self. And this is how we can dissolve the learned helplessness that comes from feeling trapped by a depressing condition that we thought we could not change. As you may also recall from the first video, Hebb's law refers to how habits originate in the conversations in our brain. Just like the grooves on a hill that get deeper as more water flows down them, the more we listen to this audio program, the more permanent our new neural pathways become. The more we listen to everybody's favorite radio station, WII-FM, which stands for What's in It for Me, the more we inspire our subconscious mind to cooperate with our conscious intentions, and this results in coherent signals. After all, coherent waves which are in phase and rhythmic are more powerful than waves that are out of phase. And the same goes for our thoughts and feelings. This is why we cannot think of fasting as deprivation and expect to feel motivation. Intentional thoughts need a catalyst to really work, such as an elevated emotion like gratitude, for how fasting totally aligns with the things that we truly value. The illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn and unlearn. And this is where COVID-19 can be a blessing, because it motivates us to relearn and recalibrate our operating system by regularly listening to words such as these, rather than risking cardiovascular disease, cancer, or respiratory failure due to COVID-19. In other words, only when we want to succeed as much as we want to breathe, can we succeed. And seeing how some studies consider deaths from medical treatment to be the third leading cause of death, after heart attacks and cancer, the best way to avoid the adverse effects of medical treatments is to not get sick in the first place. There has never been a better time to boost our immune system, and fasting does just that. Fasting also happens to fight inflammations involved in chronic conditions, such as heart disease and cancer, the two leading causes of death around the world. Plus, it is one of the most effective ways to trigger autophagy, which is the process of cell rejuvenation and regeneration, without which cells become dysfunctional. Cells can become dirty, with a buildup of old waste, and this shows in the way we look and feel. Dry, flaky skin and limp, damaged hair. Overweight, tired and aching. Therefore, this cellular repair plays a fundamental role in immunity, and in reducing your chances of age-related illnesses and disorders, such as diabetes, obesity, cancer, high blood pressure, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and cardiovascular disease. In other words, fasting boosts our immune system by addressing the very conditions that put people at risk of becoming severely ill. And since only 5% of ailments are due to genetic disorders, compared to 95% which are due to lifestyle choices, any withdrawal symptoms we feel as a result of breaking free from the pleasure trap are a tiny price to pay for bringing down the sky-high insulin levels, responsible for the top lifestyle-related killers in society. By replacing the thoughts that make you sick, you are setting yourself free from the trance that is slowly killing so many. And you are developing the responsibility muscles you need in order to change the other conversations that are no longer working for you. So thank you for choosing to update the operating system of your subconscious mind, rather than allowing it to continue directing your life and calling it fate. You are doing something that your friends, family, and future self will thank you for. Just remember that fasting is a mind game. So next time you feel like breaking your fast, put your headphones on and listen to these words, as if you were listening to your own best friend. Keeping in mind that it was not raining when Noah built the ark. And that, if you think fasting is easy, or if you think fasting is hard, you are right. So, what thoughts would you like to fire and wire in your brain today?